This happened to a woman named Claire. She'd been working as a babysitter for almost 3 years, mostly weekend nights, mostly the same 5 or 6 families in her neighborhood. She knew the job, she knew the routine. Kids asleep by 9, parents home by midnight. Nothing ever really happens until the night she babysat for the Whitfield family. It was a new client, found through a neighborhood app. The mother, Sandra, seemed normal on the phone, friendly, a little rushed. One son, 6 years old, named Eli. She said he was a good sleeper. Down by 8:30, no problems. Claire showed up at 6. The house was big, a little too big for 3 people. Sandra gave her the rundown fast. Emergency numbers on the fridge. Eli's room upstairs, second door on the left. Then she said something that stuck with Claire the whole night. She said, "Whatever you do, don't open his closet." Claire laughed a little, assuming it was a joke. Sandra didn't laugh back. "He gets nightmares if the closet's open. Just keep it shut. That's it. That's the only rule." Then she left. Claire and Eli had dinner. He was quiet, polite, drew pictures at the table while she made grilled cheese. Nothing strange about him at all. By 8:15, he was already rubbing his eyes. She tucked him in at 8:30, exactly like Sandra said. The closet door was shut. She checked it twice before leaving the room, just to be safe. Downstairs, she did what she always did. Television on low, phone out, waiting for the house to go quiet. At 10:15, she heard it. A creak from upstairs, slow, deliberate. The kind of creak a door makes when it's being pulled open very, very carefully. Claire turned the TV down and listened. Nothing. She told herself it was an old house. Old houses creak. She went back to her phone. At 10:40, she heard footsteps, small ones, moving across the floor above her, toward the stairs. She got up and walked to the bottom of the staircase. Eli was standing at the top in his pajamas, looking down at her. "I'm thirsty," he said. Claire brought him a glass of water, walked him back up, tucked him in again. The closet door was still shut. She remembered checking it. She was sure of it. She went back downstairs. At 11, she heard the creak again. Longer this time. Like a door opening all the way. She went up immediately. Eli's door was open just slightly. She pushed it open the rest of the way. He was in bed, eyes closed, breathing slow and even, asleep. But the closet door, the one rule, the only rule Sandra had given her, was wide open. Claire stood in the doorway for a second. She told herself she must have not closed it properly the second time. She walked over and shut it, carefully, made sure it clicked. She checked on Eli one more time, still asleep, still breathing normal. She left the room and pulled his door most of the way shut behind her, the way Sandra asked her to. Back downstairs, she sat on the couch and didn't touch her phone. She just listened. At 11:40, she heard the creak one more time, slow, the exact same sound. She didn't go up right away. She sat there, and for some reason she found herself counting. 1, 2, 3. At 4, she heard a second sound, a voice. Not Eli's voice. Lower. Almost like someone trying to whisper, but not quite managing it. She couldn't make out words, just a tone, a rhythm, like someone reading something out loud, very quietly, to someone else in the room. Claire stood at the bottom of the stairs for almost a full minute before she could make herself move. When she got to Eli's door, it was open again, all the way this time. Eli was sitting up in bed, not lying down, not sleeping, sitting straight up, facing the closet. The closet door was wide open, and he was talking to it, not screaming, not scared, just talking, calm, quiet, like a normal conversation. Claire couldn't make out what he was saying, only that his voice had the same rhythm as the one she'd heard from downstairs. She said his name. He stopped talking immediately and turned to look at her. "He doesn't like it when the door's closed," Eli said. "He gets upset." Claire asked him who he was talking about. Eli looked back at the closet and said, "He was already here when we moved in. Mom says don't talk about him, but he gets sad if nobody talks to him." Claire didn't sleep that night. She sat in the hallway outside his door until Sandra got home at 12:30. When Sandra walked in and saw Claire sitting on the floor outside Eli's room, she didn't ask what happened. She just said, "The closet was open, wasn't it?" Claire nodded. Sandra sat down next to her in the hallway and was quiet for a long moment before she said anything else. She said the house had a previous owner, an elderly man who lived alone for almost 20 years before he passed away inside the home. Nobody found him for almost 2 weeks. Sandra said when they bought the house, the realtor mentioned it briefly, almost as a footnote, the way realtors do when they want you to forget something fast. They moved in anyway, renovated most of the house, except Eli's room. He picked that one himself the day they walked through. He said it felt like someone was waiting for him there. Sandra thought it was just kid imagination. Kids say strange things. She didn't think about it again until the nightmares started. Eli waking up at the same time almost every night. 3 a.m., always asking the same question. Why does the door have to stay shut? Sandra never gave Claire a real answer that night. She just paid her, thanked her, and said she wouldn't need her again. Claire never went back to that house. She still babysits for other families in the neighborhood, but she says if she ever gets a new client and hears the words, "Don't open the closet," she turns the job down. No questions asked. There's a second story that came out of that same neighborhood almost 2 years later, and it's the reason this story even got told publicly in the first place. A different family, a different street, same town. A delivery driver named James was finishing his last route of the night, a little after 11, when he got an order for a house on Maple Hollow Drive. Quiet street, dead end. He'd delivered there before. Older houses, well kept. The kind of street that's completely silent by 9 p.m. When he pulled up, every light in the house was off, except one. A single light upstairs, in a window with the curtains drawn most of the way. He walked up, knocked and waited. No answer. He knocked again. Still nothing. He checked the order. Paid already, no tip added. Customer name just listed as S. Whitfield. James figured maybe they'd fallen asleep waiting and left a note like some customers do. He set the bag down by the door and turned to leave. That's when the porch light came on behind him. He turned back. The front door was still closed. Nobody had opened it. But the light upstairs, the one with the curtains drawn, had gone out, and a new light had turned on in a different room, closer to the front of the house, right above the porch. James stood there for a second, telling himself it was just on a timer. Lights do that. Smart homes do that automatically now. Then he heard a child's voice from somewhere inside, clear enough to make out 3 words. "He's right there." James didn't wait to find out who he was talking about. He left the bag, got in his car, and pulled away faster than he probably should have on a residential street. 2 minutes later, the app buzzed. A tip had been added, $20, with a note attached. The note read, "Sorry about that. He doesn't like strangers very much." James cancelled his shift for the rest of the night. He never delivered to that house again. He says whenever the app shows an order for Maple Hollow Drive, he passes it to someone else. He never explains why. He just says some houses you don't go back to, and some closets you just leave shut. There's a third detail that didn't come out until much later, almost by accident, through a home inspector named Priya. Priya was hired to do a routine inspection on a house 2 streets over from Maple Hollow for a couple looking to buy. Standard job. Attic, basement, electrical, plumbing. She'd done hundreds of these. The house was empty during the inspection. Sellers had already moved out. Just her, alone, walking through room by room with a clipboard and a flashlight. Everything checked out fine until she got to the smallest bedroom upstairs. A kid's room, judging by the faded stickers still stuck to the window frame. There was a closet in the corner. Small, ordinary. The kind you'd find in any house built in that era. She opened it to check for water damage, mold, anything that might affect the sale. Inside, near the back wall, at about the height a small child could reach, someone had written something in pencil. Faint but legible if you looked closely. It said, "He's still waiting, don't tell them." Priya took a photo for the report, mostly out of habit, then closed the closet and moved on. She didn't think much of it. Old houses have old graffiti. Kids write strange things. She mentioned it once, almost as a joke, to the listing agent. The agent went quiet for a second longer than felt normal. Then the agent said the family who used to live there had a son. He used to tell people there was a man who lived behind his closet wall. Not in the closet, behind it, in the space between the walls. The parents had a contractor check it once just to put the boy's mind at ease. There was a space back there, small, narrow, just wide enough for a person to stand in sideways. It had always been empty, but the access panel, the one the contractor used to get in and check, had been painted over years before the family even bought the house. Someone had sealed it shut on purpose, long before anyone living there was born. Priya finished the inspection. The report came back clean. The sale went through. She still thinks about that pencil writing sometimes, especially the second part. Don't tell them. She never figured out who wrote it or who it was talking about. But she says she's inspected a lot of houses since then, and she always checks behind the closets now. Every single time. 3 stories, 3 different streets, 3 people with no connection to each other, describing the exact same thing. A closet, a presence behind it, and a child who somehow always knows more than the adults around them. Maybe it's coincidence, maybe certain houses just hold on to something long after the people who built them are gone. If you've ever worked a job that put you inside someone else's house, alone at night, you probably have a story too. Tell us in the comments. We read every one. And if you ever get told not to open a door, maybe just don't.